Welcome to another session of Biz Money Talks. I am your host, Tracey Bissett, a money coach for entrepreneurs, and I'm really excited to be here today. We have a very special guest. Let me introduce you to Kim Chernecki, the CEO and founder of Freedom Street, Inc. So welcome to the show, Kim.
Well, thanks, Tracey. I'm thrilled to be here with you today.
Well, it's very exciting, and I know that you're going to have lots of great tips and insights. And so Kim works with executives and professionals transitioning out of corporate, as well as small business owners, to define, structure, launch, and grow their dream consulting, coaching, and other service-based business, and to secure themselves a lucrative roster of corporate clients. And so super excited about that. I know that that is something that most business owners want to attain. So I think that's fantastic. I'd love it if you can start by sharing a little bit about your background in your own words, your experience, and certainly your business.
Oh, sure. So yeah, as Tracey mentioned, I work with executives who, have been in the corporate world and, they've either been restructured or they just don't want to do the grind anymore, but they still want to make an impact. So I'll work with them around kind of like a career capping business, if you will, where they can actually consult and offer their services back into corporate. So, really help them to package who they are and what they know and sell back into corporate, and really be trusted advisors with their clients, right? And I also work with small business owners, service-based, who really want to land a steady roster of lucrative corporate contracts. I help them to get bigger deals than they're used to before with smaller clients, like sometimes 3 to 4 times bigger, as well as develop multi-year partnerships so they don't have to keep going back to the drawing board all the time. They've got some sustainable revenue for the longer term. So I just love helping small business owners to do that.
And that's how we met. I was transitioning out of corporate and we met. You helped me as I was formulating my ideas and what was I going to do in my business. And I know from my background in banking that one of the keys to a successful business is having that steady cash flow stream. And with corporate clients, you can certainly generate that recurring revenue, like you mentioned, for your business. But I also know that it's very hard to do that. And sometimes it's very challenging for business owners. Sometimes whether you've come from corporate and people don't associate that with your identity, or whether you're a small business owner and you've never been in corporate and you don't really know how to navigate that universe, because it is a different universe. So I'd love for you to share your observations from the pandemic as it pertains to what was happening in the corporate market. And were there any changes that you had noticed or observed that were different than what you might have seen in past years, like before the pandemic came along?
Well, it's a great question because it's interesting. Before the pandemic came along, the corporate marketplace was being disrupted because of technology, right? Technology was really disrupting businesses. Kodak went out of business, and then and because they didn't change with the times and so forth. So that was already happening. And then COVID hit, and it's like, it's disrupted the marketplace on a global scale all around, right? I mean, strategies went out the window, all these wonderful formulated strategies out the window, right? People were just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? They've never dealt with something like this before. They knew it was coming in some way, shape, or form, but not on that scale. So strategies went out the window. Business models went out the window. I mean, supply chains entirely disrupted and impacted, right? And the changes to the workforce are just incredible because obviously everything went virtual. All of a sudden, everyone had to go home. So, I'd say overall, for the first 2 to 3, well, even 4 months of the pandemic last year, it was all about being reactive, right? Because people weren't prepared for this. They not on the scale and level that it happened. So it was all about being reactive. So, and as leaders had their typical roles, which are already busy, and then all of a sudden, especially HR leaders, they were thrust on having to get people, out of their offices. And, some businesses did it quite well. Those that were, ahead technologically, if you will. But there were some that were still analog, if you want to say that, right? They were just, they just barely scraped by. Now they have, but that was a big adjustment, right? Getting people set up in their homes. So it was pretty tough. So now, I mean, over, the recent months, organizations are now focusing on being proactive. They know that they've got a new reality to deal with, and they're really investing to adapt. So it's started off pretty scary, and then people started adjusting, and now we're starting to move in, especially as we're about to, especially in Canada, moving back to what is going to be the new normal. And it's interesting. I've been talking to some people from the States. They're obviously far ahead in terms of being inoculated. And I heard some people saying, when we get back to work, we're never going back on Zoom. We're never going virtual. And they're in for a rude awakening, because there is going to be a resistance to that, because people are now going to want to have a hybridized model. They're going to want to, because they're used to being with their families and so forth. So there's a whole new world of work that's coming into being.
Exactly. And were the taps shut off on business opportunities during the beginning of the pandemic? Like, were companies kind of just in corporates in this kind of like, we've got to figure out what we're doing just to maintain what the heck's going on. We're not taking on new suppliers. And so things slow from the way the money was flowing as well?
It really did at the beginning. I mean, for the first couple of months, it's like business just shut down, because and it was interesting, because a number of organizations were kind of looking to the past, back in 2008, when there was that big financial crisis, right? And that's all they could relate to, is what happened there, because that was so, impactful. And at that time, two things were emerging. First of all, that it was all about cost efficiencies, streamlining their costs. And of course, the first thing that's going to get shut down is any kind of outside consulting and training. They just have to, right? So consulting, training. Now, there was obviously still suppliers and products that they take on, but yeah, the tap really did turn off for a while. But then what some of the forward-thinking business leaders knew, that was the time to start investing in innovation, because they know, and of course, the old saying, and there's a silver lining in every crisis, right? So a big opportunity to take advantage. Now, more companies are doing that, but certainly it was shut off for a while. But I'll tell you, Tracy, people are buying now with a vengeance. They really are. And corporate is really investing now. They're investing differently, smartly. Cost efficiencies are still really important. Operational efficiencies are still really important. But one of the things, they're really investing in their people. They're really investing in their leadership. And in fact, a lot of leaders last year didn't cut it. They didn't kind of step up, because there was so much complexity that they weren't able to navigate. So there's a whole new level of leadership that's being developed now to be able to handle what's going to continue to be increasing complexity on a global level, right?
That's great. And so if you think about clients that you worked with who were trying to secure those corporate clients during the pandemic, or even just switch their business strategy or stay afloat, what were some of the things that they were doing well? And what were some of the things where you would have liked to see everybody kind of jump into action on, or make some improvements on?
So the small business owners themselves? Yeah. So, well, it was interesting. When the pandemic first happened, people were calling me going, like, I've still got to market. I've still got to do business. like, should I reach out? Like, what should I do? Like, people were nervous because they didn't want to look insensitive, or, the tone, the saying tone deaf, right? So at first it was like, just check in, see how people are doing. Don't sell them anything. Don't try to, right? But really, the people who have adapted well are the ones that went, and I don't like to use this word because it's so overused, pivoted. It's the ones that pivoted and tweaked their businesses. So basically re-engineered their messaging, re-engineered their services and so forth to what corporate needs now in real time. And as we're moving forward, give you an example. I have a client, Teresa. She's a media strategist, And she would work with, C-suite leaders around their messaging, getting them into the media and so forth. And while she continues to do that, what she found, because she's a 30-year broadcaster, TV, all the rest of it, and she also has her own production company. So what she's doing and having huge inroads with corporate is she's working with sales leaders and their sales teams so they have a consistent virtual presence. Because you think about sales forces, right? And you think about corporate sales forces, how we've always done sales, outside salespeople is through meeting face-to-face, some schmoozing, taking people to games, all that kind of thing. But now, and for a while longer, it's all been having to engage virtually, which means adding value. And there's also being on Zoom and having a consistent client-facing presence. So that's an example of Teresa pivoting her business from media strategy and productions to helping sales teams to be able to have that virtual presence. And she also would do video productions. She got right into turning boring Zoom meetings into like quality productions for their town halls, for their corporate events. So all that to say, it's so important for, and the ones that have been successful, but even now's the time for small business owners to stand up and stand out and help corporate with real-time needs and just their messaging to help them to solve problems and opportunities as we, head into going back to the office in whatever hybrid form that's going to be. So it's really about old messaging won't do. And it's being really sensitive to what your target corporate needs and wants now.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of work virtually before, and I'm going to continue doing lots of work virtually because it makes sense I don't need to be driving around all over the place to deliver to clients, and I can certainly source more clients outside of a geography. It was great. You mentioned earlier with brighter days ahead coming, like what it's looking like in corporate and that the spending is back on in those areas where they're focused on spending. And then particularly how business owners should rise to meet that challenge. And so what I heard you say is listen to your customers, if they're your existing customers, and meet them with what they need. If you didn't have something that they need, then scan the market and find something you're skilled to do and make that into an offering so that you're being responsive and you're not trying to pitch that same old thing that you were doing for 10 years that doesn't seem to fit anymore. Is that kind of an accurate synopsis?
Beautiful synopsis. That's a really good selling skill, Tracy. You summarized it. That's really good. No, absolutely. That's exactly it. Listening to what your customers want and need and adapting. And then, getting in the door and adding value. You know what I mean? Being that true trusted advisor and listening to what they really need and providing them a solution that is really going to help them. And you know what? Corporate leaders need help. They need help in all kinds of areas, right? Because they're just, and another thing I was going to insight I'd love to share is because of the pandemic, executive leaders, say executive decision makers, they haven't been traveling. They haven't been going to trade shows. They haven't been going to symposiums, think tanks, all those different events where those accidental collisions would happen, where they would meet people by, at the bar or, going out for lunch or breakfast or something like that. That isn't happening. So, and it's those kind of ideas that drive innovation, right? Like if you're overseas, you're in Asia, you're in Europe, and that's where innovation happens. So for us as small business owners, consultants and so forth, we have a real opportunity to be those eyes, ears, and legs, well, eyes and ears anyway, for corporate clients to be able to share those insights and best practices that will drive innovation, right? Because leaders aren't traveling right now. And so there's a real opportunity to be that for someone. And it's also a real opportunity to gain global clients because geographic borders are so less relevant right now, right? Because of technology, because what we're doing right now, it's interesting. Since the pandemic, I now have clients in the UK and Ireland, New Zealand, right across North America, potentially one in South Africa now. So it's exciting because you can gain global clientele. Now, people are going to want to be face-to-face. I still want to be face-to-face, of course. And I love doing virtual, and I love my global clients.
So now you can have all of it, the best of everything.
Yep. All the best of everything, all of the above. Yeah.
Do you think that if people are coming and they're presenting solutions that are exactly what corporates need at this time and they've got the budget, are you finding the sales cycle is shorter than maybe it would have been historically, or is it about the same length of time?
That's a great question. It is actually shorter. Well, there's a bit of both. There's some that are shorter because like there's an immediate need. So, sometimes they just need something now and moving quickly. And there's also more RFPs for bigger projects. Okay. So especially when it comes to workforce development, that's what I've been seeing. For the strategy piece and for in terms of strategy development and in terms of, business models and so forth, there's more individual consulting. But when it comes to the workforce, there's a lot more RFPs going on out there, which can be a bit of an arduous process. But overall, I would say that sales cycles overall are probably shorter.
Okay. No, that's good, because I figured there's probably a little bit of a shift if like you've got the exact right thing at the right time and it doesn't impact so many people, that it probably can get through a little bit faster and the budget is there, because we know that they were hoarding their money last year and now they're ready to spend and deal with what is perceived to be at least be partially the new normal as we keep going ahead.
Absolutely. So. Another thing, just another trend that's really out there. The whole quest for efficiencies, cost and operational efficiencies is definitely still there. They'll pay for consulting around that. They're also hiring consultants for very specific things, like go-to-market strategy, new product strategy. A lot of acquisitions happening right now or being explored. So people who are into M&As, that's really powerful too, because there's that perception that that valuations of companies will be low right now, and people are wanting to sell. So that's a lot of discussions around that are going on. So that's just a couple more trends that a lot of organizations are looking. If they're going to acquire a company, they're going to do it now, right? Try to do it now, and so explore doing it now.
So for those either watching us live right now or you're catching the replay, in the comments on social is a link to the Corporate Predictions 2021 report that Kim had prepared and produced. So that provides a lot of other insight into some of the trends as well. So that's a great document to check out. Now, you have so much experience in sales, in business, in entrepreneurship. Love to know some of your lessons that you can share with business owners who may be coaches, consultants, certainly service-based providers, things that to be kind of tried and true. And it could either be general business practice, something really corporate specific, or even sales specific, because I know how strong your background in sales is.
Great. Thank you. I love that question. I think I want to reiterate what I said earlier, because to me, it's the single most important piece is to make sure your value proposition, your messaging is specific and relevant to your target client and the issues that you solve. Because it's not so much the best person who gets in the door, it's the best person who gets in the door and is heard and sold, right? So it's really about that messaging and making it relevant. Also, when you're reaching out to, say, new prospects, do your homework. Do some business intelligence. Go in with some business intelligence. Go in with some insights that's going to make a difference. It's going to, have some impact. It's going to add value. Be that trusted advisor. If there's nothing else I would say on this whole, interview right now, come at the place. Don't try to sell people something. Be a valued, trusted advisor. Develop those relationships, right? And be willing to invest some time into the long term. Because, so you said, are the sales cycles shorter? Sure. But if you get in the door and they're not quite ready to buy from you, but you're adding value and you're starting to develop the relationship and you're adding, sending them relevant articles or just really thinking about them, but not being salesy, they're going to call you first because they trust you and they want to work with you and you've demonstrated that you're willing to invest the time. And I think
so. I just jump in for a sec because with a company called Bissett Financial Fitness, I get a lot of physical fitness pitches all day long in my inbox and in my LinkedIn box because people just see fitness. Oh, I gotta send her something. So I'm taking it that flipping a quick little connection request with a hey, I'd love to support your business and help you with this. That's probably not going to do it in the corporate market.
No. That is so funny. Like if they had if I can be so bold, if those people had taken 5 minutes and
not even
and actually looked at what you did, maybe went to your website, like then they know you're not about personal training, not personal physical fitness training,
physical fitness training,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take, it doesn't take long. Like, at least be like intelligent. Now, I say 5 minutes. These should actually take more than that. But
and certainly though, by doing it though, you end up saving yourself time because you're not spamming all these pitches out to all these people, and then you're actually focused on the ones who would be a better fit for you to serve and offer your value to.
Totally. The other tip I would give right now is, kind of two things. So, never been a better time to redefine yourself. In terms of positioning yourself for corporate, never been a better time to become the provider of choice, if you will, or trusted advisor of choice. And there's also never been a better time to really strategically grow your network, because most people are still at home. People want to make the connections, and there's never been a better time to expand your global network. So take advantage of this time to do that and get yourself in front of a whole new roster of executive decision makers that you can add value to. So those are the big ones, I would say. And I think just to build on that whole trusted advisor piece, invest time in the relationship. Don't try to sell them. Don't try to sell them something. Take the time because that's how you're going to develop those ultimately bigger deals and multi-year partnerships, by investing the time in the relationship. So those are my I'd say my biggest tips. For sure, in terms of getting in front of, and by the way, Tracey, when I say corporate, I mean B2B. That includes small, mid-sized, large, and enterprise clients. So the full range.
Excellent. And certainly there's no shortage of ways to get in front of people you'd like to get in front of. You can target specific industries for podcasts, to be a guest on different shows. You can be a speaker at a conference. You can be an attendee at a global conference. There's so many different ways, and there's so many different groups meeting just to start those connections. So if anybody's listening and thinking they don't know how to do it, just look a little bit.
Absolutely. And I want to comment on that, because you make a really, 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 really good point. So Tracey, you and I were a member of a BNI group, right? Last year. And it's so funny because I joined that BNI group, and literally 2 sessions later, we went into lockdown. So we became virtual. Well, I mean, and this links back to your point. So they allowed you to have guests and go and visit any other chapter in the world, 250 different chapters. That's how I actually got to my 2 Ireland clients, right? Was through BNI. So online virtual events, trade associations, all of those things where you had to go in person, they're all virtual now. You can meet so many more people. You can meet your target decision makers. You have way more access than you used to when it was live, right? Because everyone is virtual online. Huge opportunity. So I completely support what you just said. You just got to do some research and make sure you get on the right ones, right?
Yeah, and get in front of the right people. And because you're not traveling around to go to all these things, you do have more time in your day to do that steady research and then do those focused pitches and make those connections. So it's not about hitting everybody, but staying focused on who's really your target and who could you add the most value to.
Absolutely. So that's not going to, I was just going to say, and that's not going to change either, because a lot of organizations are realizing all these cost efficiencies because of the fact that they're not traveling, they're not paying hotel expenses, you know what I mean? They're saving a lot of money. So virtual events are going to be the new norm. I mean, there's still, of course, we're going to get back to live events and people can't wait for that, but virtual events are a mainstay. So just for people to know that and to be strategic and get to know those people and make those introductions is a fantastic business strategy for small business owners and consultants like us.
Yeah, and plus the pandemic forced everybody to put even more online. So there's so much more information for you to actually look at, whereas in the past, people might not have cared so much about what they had on their website and what was available. So no excuse for not doing your homework.
100%.
Your homework.
100%.
So before I let you go, would love to hear any final tips that you have for the coaches, consultants, service-based business owners, or business owners in general. It can be something new that you haven't raised yet, or it could be something that you've already mentioned that you really just want to reiterate to make sure everybody's taking it in before they sign off on our chat.
Sure. And I think this is going to be more of a reiteration. Now's the time to seize the opportunity to differentiate yourself as a provider to corporate. It really is. Now is the time, because there's so many new needs. And as we're getting ready to go back into getting back out there in a new hybridized form, now is the time to do it. And now is the time to really strategically grow your network. So those are the two big things I'd like to leave people with is, take advantage of this. And, because we'll be sitting here, a couple of years from now, looking back going, why didn't I do that? Yeah. Right. So, because that's saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. So.
Yeah, because some people are still getting the hang of it. So why don't you come out strong? And there's people who beat you already, who got ahead of you, but there's still tons of opportunity. Everyone's at a different place and trying to navigate where we are. And so just to carry on that theme, what are you working on now, and where can people go to learn more about you if they're interested in hearing more and potentially working with you?
Oh, thank you. Well, just reach out to me, Kim@freedomstreetinc.com. So Freedom Street, STREETINC.com, and love to chat with you. We'd like to, have a 30-minute chat. I would love to do that. I would also invite people to your point earlier, to download my white paper, Corporate Predictions 2021, where we had interviewed 60 C-suite leaders and business thought leaders around what corporate needs in 2021. And it's all coming true. So it's still relevant. It's still relevant today. So I'd love to have a chat with people to see how they can pivot their business. And here you go.
Well, that is fantastic. So thank you so much, Kim, for joining us today. You've just heard from Kim Chernecki, CEO and founder of Freedom Street Inc. As we talked about when we kicked things off, it is so important to have recurring revenue, steady cash flow in our business, and what better way than through securing corporate contacts. We can secure larger sums, we can have multi-year agreements, then even easier to get referrals because we've got those testimonials, and we can leverage those to secure more corporate contacts. So for those who know me, I love cash flow, and so why not secure as much of it as you can and have it as consistent as you can. So thank you so much again, Kim, for all those insights and tips.
Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you today. It's been a while, and that was a lot of fun. So thank you. I love your show. This is great.
Thank you so much. And so for those who joined us who are business owners, we would love to keep this business conversation going and the biz money conversation. So you can join us at our weekly meetup, which is at bizmoneyclub.com, casual meetup where we can talk about things going on in your business, how it pertains to the financial side. So love to have you join us there. And then for those who are looking to increase their financial fitness, join us for our free live 5-day financial foundation to entrepreneurial peace training. And that's coming up on June 14th. So you can get registered at bizpeace.com. And we would so love to have you there. The last session we ran in May, people were taking action on day one. And so really inspired by what people were able to do when they had some information in their hands. So until next time, in our next episode of Biz Money Talks, have a great day and we will see you soon. Take care.
Bye.